very basic in our thinking. As it's say, one must live. We need to survive, to go on. We need money for food, for this, that, and the other. We must go on. And we know that we're not going to get away with it for very long. That after a certain number of years we're going to die. The thing is going to end. The thing that we call I is going to be as it is in sleep, deep sleep, with no dreams. But that between now and that happening, there may be the most ghastly pains. Not only perhaps the pains of physical disease, or being wounded or hurt, but the pains of worrying about our failure of responsibility to people who depend on us. And we suffer other people's suffering simply because we're sensitive and have imagination, and participate in their sufferings, and our adrenaline and our chemicals respond simply by imagination to the sufferings of other people. And so we can look at these problems and say, now, all these problems cannot be solved in a physical way. That is to say, we do not expect in our lifetime that medical skill will make us exempt from death. We do not seriously expect that human beings will all learn to be nice to each other and will refrain from war and horrors of that kind, racial prejudice and so on. We don't seriously expect to find a method of being protected by taking some sort of drug against all possible disease and pain. So therefore we say, now maybe there's another way around. Maybe that instead of solving these problems at the technical level, we could solve them at the psychological and spiritual level by so disciplining ourselves, by so doing something with ourselves, that we wouldn't be afraid of it anymore. And so, in accord with that motivation, we seek out spiritual teachers, psychological teachers, this, that, and the other. Could we somehow be made over so that we don't worry about the quaking mass? And you see, if you examine that this wanting to overcome the quaking mass and not have it anymore, that precisely is the quaking mass. The thing that we object to about ourselves is precisely what we do about overcoming it. In other words, the activity that we employ in overcoming it is the mess that we object to. Do you see that? And it's very important to realize that. And if you do realize it, you raise the question, what can I do to transform the quaking mass? Well, if you are the quaking mass, there is obviously nothing you can do to transform yourself into the state of mind which you idealize as that of being the true mystic, the Christ, the saint, or whatever. So you realize that everything is phony. All your ideals are simply manifestations of the quaking mass, trying to get away from himself. And that you are put in the position of, it is absolutely necessary for me to be different from the way I am. But there's absolutely nothing I can do about it, because being the way I am, I cannot be different from that. But look, we can put it in different ways. I know that I ought not to be selfish, and I would very much like to be an unselfish person, but the reason why I want to be an unselfish person is that I am very selfish and would far more love myself and respect myself if I were unselfish. You see? I know that I ought to love God. Well, because God is the biggest boss, and it's best to be on the side of the big battalions. In other words, because I'm looking for the safety of my own spiritual skin. But you realize, when you really look into yourself, there's nothing you can do. And this, therefore, is our point of departure. That we here mutually realize there is nothing we can do to be anything else than what we are. To feel any other way than what we feel at this moment, and to be then this quaking mess. However, this isn't as much of a blind alley, a cul-de-sac, as it sounds. Because if you discover a blind alley, it tells you something. Watch the flow of water when it crosses over an area of land, and you will see that it puts out fingers, and some of them stop, because they come into blind alleys. The water doesn't pursue that course. It simply rises, and then it finds a way it can go. But it never uses any effort. It only uses weight, gravity. It takes the line of least resistance and eventually finds a course. Now, we will do the same thing, only we're ashamed of it, but we're going to do it anyhow. We think that when we come to a dead end, a blind alley, oh, I failed. Supposing the water, at each place where a finger of water stretches out over dry ground and doesn't go any further because the land is too high, the water were to say to itself, I failed. We would say it was neurotic water. Just wait, and it will find a way. Now, when you find that there's no way of transforming yourself to become this fearless, joyous, divine being as distinct from the quaking mess, this is not a gloomy announcement. It is a very, very important communication. Telling you something. Like the land is telling the water, this isn't the way to go. There's another way. Try over here. So in the same way, life is telling you that's not the way to go. It's telling you the you that you imagine to be capable of transforming yourself doesn't exist. In other words, an ego And I, separate from my emotions, my thoughts, my feelings, my experiences, who is supposed to be in control of, cannot control them because it isn't there. And as soon as you understand that, things will be vastly improved.